Hi, and welcome back to JumpCloud's video tutorial series. Today we'll be discussing JumpCloud's latest feature release, the Multi-Tenant Portal. This is a video designed for people participating in our early access testing period for the Multi-Tenant Portal. We'll be discussing two things today in this video. The first is the process to assign or otherwise associate administrators with the sub-organizations they need access to within the Multi-Tenant Portal. And the second is to go through an overview of the current capabilities in the EA version of the Multi-Tenant Portal. Let's begin. So first, let's walk through associating administrators to sub-organizations. Generally speaking, there are 4 steps involved in associating an administrator to a series of sub-organizations within the Multi-Tenant Portal. Note that these steps are required for the early access period of the Multi-Tenant Portal. These items will be automated in the future as the roadmap of the portal evolves. Again, these steps are manual by nature and designed for the early access period. So let's start with the first one, understanding how to associate administrators to the various suborgs that they need in order to, when they log into the Multi-Tenant Portal, to be able to securely access them and start managing the subtenants. There's generally 2 things that are required here in this step. The first is to decide which administrators and their emails are going to be required, and then accessing organization IDs. We'll be showing you how to access these org IDs in a second. Let me speak specifically first to the administrative emails. In order for the admin and their email to gain access to the Multi-Tenant Portal, they must currently be associated with some current JumpCloud tenant. It doesn't have to necessarily be any of the org IDs that you're going to give them new access to at the Multi-Tenant Portal. It simply means they must be associated with some current JumpCloud tenant. In the case of managed service providers, this is typically already the case in that the MSP administrator already is assigned to the MSP's sort of test tenant or sandbox tenant, or the tenant that the MSP is utilizing to manage themselves. So that typically is already taken care of. If not, you're going to want to associate them with any JumpCloud tenant. Again, it could be your test tenant or sandbox tenant. Now, as it relates to org IDs, where are those found? Let's jump into that specifically so you can see it. Let's assume the tenant that you see here in front of me is a sub-organization that you will be managing as a managed service provider. Specifically, to gain access to the Multi-Tenant Portal, you will need to do the following. You will head over into Settings, which you see here, Settings, and the org ID is found right here. So you're going to want to copy that and put that on your clipboard. Now, if we go back into the steps, we need you to submit the email address and the array of suborgs. Actually, it can be an array of administrator emails and an array of administrator org IDs. So have those prepared. Typically, they would be on a notepad, copied and pasted, but let's show you exactly where you need to submit this, because this needs to come into JumpCloud's customer success team to begin step 2, the verification process. But let's show you the conclusion of step 1. Here you will see there is a link I have on this PowerPoint. This can be found on the JumpCloud Customer Success Portal or knowledge base. And if we head over into it, note the following. You can find this either from the link that you see here or by going into Administration. And if you proceed to the second page of Administration, MSP Organization Association Request. So the form looks like this. You will enter in your name. So I will enter in my name, Greg Keller, and an email address, greg.keller@jumpcloud.com. This simply is so we know with whom to correspond, who is sending in the request. From an administrative email perspective, let's assume I have an admin on my team, and we're going to call him Jeff.Kelly at JumpCloud.com. This is an administrator that I will need to ensure has access to the following sub-organizations. Those sub-organizations are listed below. For example, right here, I'm going to paste now the organizational ID from the subtenant that I displayed for you a few moments ago. There's one other step here. I need to also have an administrator from that subtenant. I'll explain why it relates to step 2. So let's assume on the subtenant, I have an administrator called admin at JumpCloud.com. Great. What that email is required for, this particular email, is for us, our customer success team, to send a secure verification email to. We need to know that this person, Jeff.Kelly, should have valid access into that subtenant. So when you're complete with listing your array of administrator emails, org IDs, and the admins on those orgs that we're going to send a verification email to, you can hit submit. So now let's go back into the PowerPoint and look at step 2. Once that submit button has been sent to JumpCloud, our customer success team receives that email from you, from this automated system. And from this moment, what our team does is begin to send emails to those sub-organizations. For example, to that admin at JumpCloud.com email address. Those administrators will receive that email, they should be expecting it, and they need to reply back to the JumpCloud success team in order to approve that, yes, we know that Jeff.Kelly is an admin who will be gaining access into our suborg. So you will need to complete all of those verifications, submissions to us, and approve and send back a reply to our success team that all of them are approved. With all of that done, you're set. You will then receive a confirmation email, a final confirmation email from our success team saying, your organization, for all of the suborgs you've applied for associations, for all of the administrators, has been approved. Your portal is now ready for use. So now let's do that. That is step 4. So with respect to accessing the portal, nothing necessarily changes from you from a workflow perspective. You will still go to https://console.jumpcloud.com as normal. Our platform in the background knows the email that is being entered into console.jumpcloud.com as an administrator, what sub-orgs you're associated with, and to display for you the multi-tenant portal. Let's look at that process at large. Okay, so let's give you an overview of the multi-tenant portal in its early access phase. As normal, you will, as an administrator, once you have been assigned to the JumpCloud multi-tenant portal through the prior processes, you'll head on over to console.jumpcloud.com as normal. So you'll notice here I have my administrator email, greg.keller@jumpcloud.com, and my password, and I merely need to log in. Now, my team made an association between my email address, greg.keller@jumpcloud.com, and 2 specific subtenants, one JumpCloud and the other White House IT. This is obviously a fictitious one just for demonstration purposes. But let's first walk you around the early access version of the multi-tenant portal so you get a better sense of some of the current functionality. Again, much of which, if all of which, will be expanding over time. Let's first expand one of these subtenants. As you do this, you'll note that there are a number of pieces of just high-level information, stuff that we feel administrators will want to see very quickly without necessarily having to enter into a subtenant. Perhaps you're doing billing chores or other similar operations and you need a high-level piece of data like the number of users or the number of systems, etc., or frankly who the administrator, the core administrator is on that subtenant. Perhaps it is one of your customers' actual employees. All of that information can be found here. Another core feature in the early access, and frankly one of the driving reasons we created the multi-tenant portal, was to launch directly into sessions of these subtenants. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to click launch, and notice here we spawn another tab. Without the need to log in, I have had my identity, my greg.keller@jumpcloud.com email account asserted into the subtenant securely. So here I am, and I can go about my business of administering this subtenant. But notice now, even within the subtenant, I have this bar at the top. This is new for the multi-tenant portal. It's just another launch point to be able to go into a subtenant without needing to log out and log in. So I'll choose the White House IT tenant here. Notice it immediately grants me access. It knows I'm a valid user, and I am directly asserted into this session. And I can go about my day toggling to any of the administrative views as I wish. So one of the key areas of functionality too is the fact that this greg.keller account, while I am associated with this particular suborg, or frankly, any other suborg, I don't necessarily need to have my email injected into each of these suborgs. So for example, let's head on over into I'm going to go into the multi-tenant portal. We'll go into the White House org, and I'm going to go into the list of administrators. Now you see here, the actual administrator on this is another one. It's a unique email address. In this case, I'm sort of spoofing my greg.keller address, but the plus MSP1 really is indicative of the fact that this is like a unique email. It could be, Freddie@jumpcloud.com, but yet I still have access into this. That is the design of the multi-tenant portal. I bring this up to you as early access customers so you realize as you're looking into the administrative sort of consoles like you see here for these subtenants, you are not initially going to see potentially your email address listed. Over time, you will see this feature evolve where if you jump into an administrative viewpoint like this, you'll see the administrators listed that have multi-tenant access to it. They'll be denoted with different iconography, so you always really know who could get access to this particular organization subtenant. So that's it. That is really a quick overview of the multi-tenant dashboard and some of the quick functionality in the early access preview and release of the feature. We invite you to come and join the program to help give us feedback and make sure we're accommodating your feature requests as a managed service provider, or again, any customer who has requirements for managing multiple independent sub-organizations. For access to this, we invite you to send an email to partners@jumpcloud.com in order to engage in a discussion so we can determine your needs for multi-tenancy and walk you through the process to get associated with the multi-tenant portal. We always thank you for your time and watching this video tutorial and look forward to having you back to view more. Thanks again.